listening to the Fifth Down Fantasy Football Podcast with Johnny Slopes.
Top 3 to 5 pick next year.
And Camilla.
For the value you could have gotten at Ryan at.
I almost had 5,000 yards, but no, you don't want me. What you're saying is Wayne Gallman is the definite functions of running backs?
I guess you could say that. I guess you can put me down as for saying that.
We now bring you to the fifth down.
Let's have a Case Keenum jerk-off session. Seriously. What the fuck kind of roids did they give him? Because of this bizarre event of good quarterback play that we don't normally see from him, Stephon Diggs is currently the number one wide receiver in PPR leagues.
Worse is that BD was the number 2 fantasy quarterback this week, which is crazy as well.
Now I'm saying through 3 weeks, Stephon Diggs is just number 1 because of that game.
That's pretty crazy, though.
Yeah. You're listening to the Fifth Down Fantasy Football Podcast, and I'm your host, Johnny Slopes, and with me, as always, is my PIC, K-Mill.
What's up?
Yep. They replaced Case Keenum with the robot. That is the only explanation that I have. What were some of your takeaways from Week 3, K-Mill?
Wow, I mean, like I was just saying, the top 2 fantasy quarterbacks this week were Case Keenum and Blake Bortles. I mean, what else is there to say? It was an outlier, I guess you could say, of fantasy weeks. It was so weird. There was so many things that you didn't expect, but happened.
I think you're starting to see though some of the teams that are good, some of the teams that are not. I think Baltimore proved that they're imposters. They really, the first 2 wins, they really didn't play anyone seriously, and then they really didn't play anyone good this week, and they still got glomped. So I think Joe Flacco is not completely healthy, and that offense just looks like something to avoid.
Yeah, I read somewhere that he's thrown a pick in 9 straight games dating back to last season. So that's something to keep your eyes on. I mean, I don't know, but
he had 28 yards passing.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. And then, Alex Collins was their leading rusher, and he outsnapped Terrence West and Buck Allen. I mean, that was just it was weird.
Yeah. Let's do some injury news. Tyler Eifert, it looks like he's going to be out for multiple weeks. His back is acting up. I don't want to foreshadow too much, but, his replacement would be Tyler Kroft. He's not a guy that's going to get a lot of volume. He might be a red zone option, but not really something that you're going to be desiring on the waiver wire. Darren Sproles, I think we might have seen the last of him in his career, unfortunately. Not only did he break his arm, but he also tore his ACL. So, that's just a shame. That's not a good way to end your career.
Yeah, what a way. What? So unlucky. I feel for the guy, too. But, yeah, I was thinking that, too. As soon as I found out about the torn ACL as well, I was like, man, yeah, he's got to retire after this. This is the end of the road, I think.
Yep. Doug Baldwin left the game with a groin injury. I think he got an MRI. You said that he already got an MRI. We'll find out probably tomorrow or Thursday. Yeah?
Yeah, he had an MRI today. I haven't heard back from it at all, but it was reported that it's not believed to be severe. However, Pete Carroll also contradicted that report right afterwards, saying, nothing. We don't know anything yet. We'll find out. But it sounds like, from my general consensus, he has 7 days to get healthy. I think he's going to play next week. It doesn't sound like it's overly serious, but let's just hold our breath, everybody.
All right. Also, Michael Crabtree left the game with a chest injury. The X-rays were negative. What could this mean going forward for the Oakland passing game? Obviously, Murray Cooper was struggling, so that's not good news either.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. I'd have to feel under Murray Cooper under to know how bad they're panicking right now, but I don't know.
Yep. Matt Forte, they said that he has a significant toe injury, that he could miss some time. I guess that's good news for Bilal Powell owners, but it still looks like there's some kind of a timeshare going on in that backfield.
Yeah, I'm personally glad because I did have Bilal Powell on my bench. So, but I want to see how this develops because I think they were getting kind of all 3 backs in there because they wanted to mix some stuff up. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, for those people that were a little bit hasty in cutting Powell, that could have been a nice little pickup because he usually ends up being a decent bench stash for people, and it looks like it could pay off dividends once again. I want to do a little bit of actually, it's not too late to insure your key players against injuries. Go to www.rotosurance.com. Then you enter your league fee amount, select your player and you wish to purchase a claim on, and if that player misses half their remaining games, you get 100% of your league fees. In return, no questions asked. In a $100 league, Le'Veon Bell costed me $16 premium coverage, and the best part about it is that even if they do sustain an injury and you could still overcome it and win your league. I've done it before. I went undefeated without Bell in 2015, and that is the way you double your winnings.
Yeah, there you go.
If you use the coupon code F5DFF, get 20% off your premium coverage.
Hell yeah!
And now I wanna jump into some rapid fire with you, K-Mill. We're doing a sit, trade, and cut. I want to see how fast you can go.
All right,
you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, Jay Ajayi.
Oh, I would hold him.
Isaiah Crowell. Did he do anything for you? 12 for 44.
Oh yeah, I'd be in full-on panic mode with Isaiah Crowell. I would be on the side of, man, maybe if you have a bench spot for him, keep him there for a couple of weeks. But I mean, if you had a gun to my head, I'd say cut.
Bilal Powell.
Hold.
Paul Perkins.
Cut.
Samaje Perine.
Cut.
Rob Kelly.
Hold.
Des Bryant.
Trade.
Either Terrell Pryor or Jamison Crowder.
I would say hold Crowder and trade Pryor to anybody that will take him.
Amari Cooper.
Whew. Yeah, trade.
Larry Fitzgerald.
This is a tough one that I'm wrestling with because of what he did tonight, but I would say trade.
Hunter Henry.
Whew. Probably cut.
Cut. That's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, Jason Witten.
Hold.
Yeah, I think it's a hold now because of tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
Eric Ebron.
Ooh, cut. At this point, cut.
Jimmy Graham.
Hold for now.
Yeah, I think you could sit him down. Martellus Bennett.
I guess you don't have any options. I'd hold him, but because I'm in a scarce position. But I would probably cut him. He's not really worth anything.
All right, I think that's something that I kind of like to do for our waiver wire shows. We'll start that out from now on. I kind of like to do like that little exercise. We'll continue to do that week in and week out. Let's jump into some quarterbacks now. When we're talking quarterbacks on the waiver wire, we're typically talking about streaming options. Say if your quarterback plays poor or you have an injury, these are some guys that you can go to. Trevor Siemian, he's currently quarterback 7. He still, in my opinion, he's still just a game manager. He only managed the Broncos to a lousy 16 points and what looks like a pretty stingy Buffalo defense. I guess the main reason why I brought him up, though, is because he does have some streaming appeal next week against Oakland. We just seen them get shredded against Kirk Cousins. This is a guy, he may not be available in your league. He's 52% owned. But this past week, we just seen them get torched by Cousins for 365 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't exactly think that, Simeon's going to light this defense up by any means, but he's probably one of the best spots if you're trying to stream quarterbacks.
Yeah, I can see it happening. I'm on this camp of you two as a Broncos fan that I think he's a game manager. So, but he has a very attackable matchup here. I would pump him up.
Who's another guy that you're trying to stream this week, K-Mill?
I kind of caught me on the spot here. I actually haven't looked at a whole lot of next week's matchups yet.
Okay.
Quarterback.
I think another one that I think a lot of people may try to stream. This is another guy that may not be available in some leagues. He appears like he's going to have a nice matchup in San Francisco, but it's Carson Palmer. he has a nice matchup in San Francisco next week, but he's coming off a long weekend, and a short weekend, and San Francisco's coming off a long weekend, and I think people will be streaming Carson Palmer thinking that's a good matchup because he's been averaging like 300 yards a game, but the Niners, they did a nice job against Cam. They did a nice job against Russell Wilson. They have yet to allow a 300-yard passer. But, Jared Goff, he did come close. He had 3 touchdowns. So I could look for Carson Palmer to open up things this weekend, but I think there are some better options out there.
I do actually have an option that I just looked up his matchup. His rumors of his demise were greatly exaggerated. Andy Dalton, who's probably definitely on the waiver wire at this point in time in your league, he gets the Browns next week, so that's a plus matchup for him. And he had a good game against a decent defense in Green Bay, so I look for him to continue his resurgence this season because I think that everything kind of got overblown with kind of the offensive coordinator and everything like that. So I think that Andy Dalton is in a good spot here.
Yeah, Andy Dalton, he's currently quarterback 32 right now, 45% owned in Yahoo leagues. I think a lot of people probably dropped Andy Dalton for good reason. But, they do have a new offensive coordinator, and they didn't look awful against Green Bay. They even took them into overtime. Who would have thought that if you just give A.J. Green the ball, your offense would look better? Who would have thought? Bill Lazor was masking the offensive line with issues with quick throws. Andy Dalton, like you said, they get the Browns next week. Big Ben, Flacco, Jacoby Brissett, they all had their highest passing total so far this year against the Browns, and Andy Dalton very well may join the group with them.
Good take.
I think another one that's probably not as popular, Tyrod Taylor. He's currently quarterback 16, 41% owned in Yahoo leagues. Well, I mean, he didn't shit the bed against Denver. He actually looked pretty efficient in that one. Next week he plays the Falcons. The Falcons, they've given up over 270 yards a game through 3 games. I think that Trevor Siemian's a better streaming option than Tyrod Taylor. But if Trevor Siemian for some reason is not available, Tyrod Taylor should be okay, but he'll only be okay. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
One guy that I think a lot of people are probably going to shy away from, and he might end up being like a decent DFS play, is Jay Cutler. He's currently quarterback 31, 29% owned. Man, how bad was this offense this past week? They nearly got shut out against the Jets.
I know, that was so weird to see. I thought Ajay was going to have a monster game. Didn't happen. It just seemed like nothing was going right. It seemed like every receiver in Miami, aside from Devontae Parker, put up good stats. The only time they even used Devontae Parker was in garbage time. I was like, okay, so the only receiver that's going to do anything is Devontae Parker, but yet you don't use him until garbage time. And, he had a goose egg up until, I think the third quarter.
They had a goose egg until the last play of the game. They scored a touchdown with zeros on the clock.
No, because I was saying he had an actual 0 in the third quarter, and then he got 4 points, and then he kept, and then he made it interesting for fantasy owners. But my point is that Jarvis Landry and Kenny Stills couldn't do anything, and then same with Jay Ajayi, and then they finally went to Devontae Parker and had some results. I'm not saying anything about that, but it was just a surprising game.
Yeah. I mean, I thought I was going to beat you starting Josh McCown in our 2 quarterback league. Obviously it wasn't going to happen. I know my team's terrible, but he made things interesting. The only reason why Jay Cutler is on our Nugget Report still is he plays the Saints next week. Even with the Saints holding Cam Newton to 167 yards this past weekend, they are still allowing an average of 319 passing yards a week and surrendered 6 passing touchdowns. Now, I can totally understand if you're shying away from Jay Cutler, but, he could be in a decent spot. Just buyer beware. This is more of a riskier streaming option.
Hey, man. Desperate time.
Let's go over to some other running backs, shall we?
Do it.
I think I'm throwing this first name out here. I'm only going to do this because there might have been some owners that dropped him because he got off to a slow start. Duke Johnson, he's currently running back 17. 52% owned in Yahoo leagues, so he might not be available in every league. He's still available, though, in 46% of Yahoo leagues. He plays a Cincinnati team that just allowed 8 receptions to Ty Montgomery, and they allowed 6 the week before against the Texans, so there could be some room for Duke to operate next week. If he's available, yeah, I'd make him a priority. I might even consider, like, up to 10% of my fab, but maybe you could probably get him for 5.
Yeah, that's a good ad right there.
And I'm gonna keep bringing this guy up until he's owned in enough leagues. I just said this last week on our Nugget Report. Alvin Kamara, he's gonna remain on this list until he's owned in your leagues. I mean, he's 40% owned in Yahoo leagues right now. He's running back 26. I know it's kind of hard to trust his usage from week to week, but it does seem like he is a big part of the passing attack. Adrian Peterson doesn't look like he's getting used as much. He has 18 targets through 3 weeks. I think you can keep him as like a flex consideration, but he's probably better as like a bye-week fill-in.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
Is there any names that stick out to you at the running back position?
Yeah, I know a popular ad this week's probably going to be Wendell Smallwood. I'm not really liking it too much, but he's a popular name that could go up. I think the only thing he really warrants week to week is like maybe flex consideration. But I think I want to put this in perspective for people that are thinking about adding him. This is going to be a full-blown committee. Like, to trust this guy in your lineup, you would have to be so desperate. Like, I'm just saying. I'm just putting it in perspective. And another guy I want to bring up is Dante Foreman. He was getting involved with the Texans, and it seems like him and Lamar Miller are drifting more and more closer to a timeshare. So I'm just saying, maybe not so much a waiver ad, but I'd pick this guy up because if he's getting locked into a timeshare and then maybe, if something happens to Miller, he could have the keys to the kingdom here, and it can be a great ad. He's a great bench stash for your team.
Yeah, I do think Wendell Smallwood will be one of the more popular ads this week. He's currently running back 57. He's only owned in 6% of Yahoo leagues. Donald Pumphrey and now Darren Sproles, they're both going to be on IR for the season. I think he could find himself in a situation where he could be getting some early down work in a rotation with the Garrett Blount. We all know Garrett Blount is
You there?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I just said and Corey Clement. I was just throwing his name in there.
Oh, I was going to say, we all know Blount. He's a one-dimensional thumper. Wendell Smallwood could be asked to be the more versatile back of that offense. He could be worth an ad if you're a running back needy team. I think at this point in the season, though, I'd consider him more like an RB4. I know you brought up Corey Clement. I think that he could be actually the better back out of that committee. People will probably pick up Smallwood, but I think you can keep your eyes on this guy. He's probably going to be playing behind the Garrett Blount and Wendell Smallwood, but we know the Eagles, they like to use multiple backs on a game plan basis, and if he shows out when he gets in, he could steal somebody's job. I also like the Donta Foreman call. That was a good one as well.
Nice.
I think another one that might be kind of a popular one, this is one I think I'm not really high on. I don't buy too much into this guy, Alex Collins. He's running back 65. He's only owned in 2% of Yahoo leagues. Now listen, he's in a 3-back committee. I'm sure someone will overpay or pursue him, and that's fine. Let them do that. If you want to wait till first come, first serve, or if you have if you're in like the back of the waiver order, then I guess that's okay. But other than that, though, there's probably some better options out there with both Terrence West and Buck Allen involved in that backfield.
Agreed.
Have you liked what you've seen out of Jamal Charles so far? He's quietly averaging 5 yards a carry.
Yeah, no, I was actually going to say I do like what I've seen. In fact, even in week 1, when people were like, yeah, it's C.J. Anderson's backfield, and I agree with that. But I do like Jamal Charles. He looks like vintage Jamal Charles. I mean, he was still getting chunk games. He even fumbled in week 1 like vintage Jamal Charles. I mean, I'm just joking. But, yeah, I mean, it should worry C.J. Anderson owners, but I still think ultimately that he's the back to own in this backfield. However, Jamal Charles is a decent stash for a lot of teams, and especially as a handcuff to C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, I don't think that he's a guy that you're rushing out to get or you're really even putting in a claim for. But definitely if you're a C.J. Anderson owner, you're keeping Jamal Charles on your radar. And maybe if you do have an extra bench spot on your bench, like you could slap Jamal Charles on there, sure. I just want to throw one more running back name out there, just because this is a warning to be patient with CJ Procise. He's running back 48, 18% owned in Yahoo leagues. He was the only other back besides Chris Carson on that roster that had a touch last game. Off the Seattle's offense, they looked a lot better when they sped things up, and if they do that more often as the season goes on, that could open up more opportunities for CJ Procise.
Yeah, I mean, he was targeted on a pass play in the end zone, and he didn't come down with it. But there were some times where he could have had some big plays. It was just either he was off or Russell Wilson was off. The timing wasn't right, but he was in position to make some plays.
I think he had like 60, 70 yards receiving.
Yeah, I'm just saying he could have had an even bigger day. Like
you had a bigger one, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go over to wide receiver. I think I'm gonna start off first with my top wide receiver ad of the week is gonna be Sterling Shepard, currently wide receiver 20. He's 35% owned in Yahoo leagues. Despite his 22 targets through 3 games, though, his usage has been a little bit inconsistent. He's battling with Evan Ingram over the middle of the field. The Giants offense finally put up a little bit of points. It appears, though, like Sterling Shepard will be a big part of this offense, especially if Brandon Marshall starts to show his age. Yeah, I don't think you really count on this guy every week, but he's definitely a solid bench stash.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I think at this point, Brandon Marshall might be getting cut. Like at some point, they got to say, "Hey, what the fuck?" Or I don't know, but it seems like Sterling Shepard's getting more and more involved, and it does suck that he's competing with Evan Ingram up the middle. But at the end of the day, you could do worse on your bench. And even if, say you're not wide receiver, I would only add him if you need more receivers on your bench. That would be the only situation. Other than that, I think you can just kind of ignore it. Like if you have a guy like Willis Snead on your bench, I really think you can ignore this.
Kenny Britt, he's starting to have a lot in common with Old Yeller. It's almost time to put him down. I mean, Kaiser was looking his way. He had 10 targets this past weekend, but he was only able to catch 3 of them. I mean, one of them was for a touchdown, and the volume is nice, and that's literally the only reason why I brought him up. But could you trust him in your flex?
No, and I wouldn't even want him on my bench.
Yeah, we wouldn't, so you should just avoid him, you know?
Look, here's my take on this. Look, let somebody else deal with the headache, and honestly think about what it would take for you to trust a guy like Kenny Britt in your lineup. I'm right. You're not gonna put him there. You're not gonna do it. So just ignore it.
Yeah. Mohamed Sanu, same drill as last week. You could probably wait for a couple weeks though. Yeah, he's pretty good in real life, but the volume's not going to be there each week. I think he's just another bench piece for a bye week, but he's coming off a touchdown. He plays a tough Buffalo defense, and then he goes on a bye, so I think you could wait and not make him a priority this week.
Yeah, same. I think you just wait for first come, first serve.
Devin Funchess, he's currently wide receiver 52. He's 20% owned in Yahoo leagues. I think this is more of like a speculation ad. Greg Olson's out. Ed Dixon's proven that he's mostly just a blocker. Devin Funchess, through 3 weeks, has more targets, more receptions, more yards than Kelvin Benjamin, and that's because he's the better player. He's a better receiver than Kelvin Benjamin. I think he's going to command a good chunk of targets over the middle in this offense with Greg Olson out. I mean, the only drag is he does have Cam Newton throw him the ball, but that sucks. But at least I think he'll get some solid volume, whether or not Kelvin Benjamin misses any time with his knee injury. If you're in a need for a wide receiver, I think you consider Devin Funchess. I'd probably put him as my number 2 ad as far as receivers.
Yeah, I think I would even challenge to put him as number 1 because even in a shitty offense like Carolina, I think that the number 1 guy has a lot of value. So fuck it, why not? I would take the chance that he could be like a steal ad of the season.
Any love for Taylor Gabriel, Robbie Anderson?
You have to be in a pretty deep league to trust them. They're like wide receiver 4s or 5s at this point, and it's just really hard to predict it because if you got a guy like Gabriel, you're predicting that he's going to score a touchdown, and that's just really fluky. So I really wouldn't want to deal with the headache.
If Randall Cobb, though, if he is able to miss another week, would you consider a guy like Geronimo Allison, who's coming off a 100-yard game?
He's interesting to me. I really don't know. I think I would have to see another injury, like say, Jordy Nelson's re-injures, that already previously disclosed injury, and then maybe. But I think that there would be maybe another injury for him to get involved enough for you to want to start him.
Here's some other players I think people might look at that you should avoid, like Travis Benjamin, Adam Humphries. They both had decent games, but I don't think they'll be able to do that from week to week. They had game script on their side. That's why they're able to get the numbers that they got. Try to avoid those guys. How do you feel, though, about Paul Rick?
I really don't know. I can't even predict how this Seattle wide receiver mess is going to shake out. I think he's good. I think he definitely deserves a roster spot in 10 team and above leagues. But at the end of the day, I really don't know. I really don't have a lot of confidence in the Seattle offense.
Jacksonville's passing attack showed some life. Do you have any interest in any of the Jacksonville receivers anymore? Or still? Or yet?
I mean, to be honest with you, I think the only one I am concerned about is Marquise Lee. He's had, I think 19 targets in the last 2 games, which is pretty impressive. So I say that if DB is looking anybody's way, it's his way. So I would add him if anybody.
Let's go over to tight ends. For tight ends, I think Evan Ingram, he's fucking fast, man, for a tight end. The Giants, they've been using their rookie tight end quite a bit. He has 13 catches so far. He's been able to reel in a touchdown. And, that's nice and everything. I'm still worried about this offense, though. They could just end up falling on their face. They play Tampa next week. Tampa Bay, they pretty much erased Kyle Rudolph this past Sunday. I think he held him to 1 catch. So Evan Ingram, I like the talent and everything. It's just not currently on my streaming radar this week.
Yeah, like I said, they got to mix up there, and do more 2 tight end sets before he gets to be an interesting option, because right now it's just too predictable. Like, when he gets out on the field, teams automatically know what the Giants are trying to do, so I don't like him right now.
Yeah, I mean, I had to bring him up, though. He's tight end number 7 right now through 3 weeks.
Yeah, and you got to remember, too, he's a rookie, so that's another thing.
They always hit their wall. Is there a tight end that you have your eye on this week?
Yeah, probably Charles Clay. Again, he scored a touchdown, and he was targeted. I think I read that he was targeted at least 5 times. I mean, he's definitely getting enough volume to warrant that. And honestly, right now, he's like a borderline tight end 1 in my eyes.
I mean, he's not on a very potent offense. He's not on one that will excel from week to week, but he will be a solid streaming option pretty much all year. With the lack of weapons in Buffalo, they have Atlanta next week. They've been kind of stingy against the tight end position this year. They held Zach Miller, Martellus Bennett, and Eric Ebron all under 47 yards without a touchdown. But, I mean, that's not a very good list of tight ends either. I think Charles Clay is probably their best option to pass the ball. It's a little bit hard to trust him next week. But, I mean, right now he's tight end number 5, and he's only owned in 21% of the leagues. He has to at least be on your roster.
Yeah, I would have to say so, too. It sucks that I have to keep talking about him on the waiver wire, but, yeah.
I mean, remember we were always asking what happened to Charles Clay last year? Hey, there he is. He's right there.
Yeah, he's back. He's back. All we had to do was, just get rid of everybody else.
How do you feel about Benjamin Watson? He's currently tight end 12. He's owned in 32% of Yahoo leagues. He didn't have anything close to the volume that he had last week, as mostly because Flacco was awful. He did manage to score, though, so he saved you if you started him. But he has inconsistent usage through 3 weeks, which makes it hard for me to trust this old man. I mean, I can totally understand if you want to drop this guy for someone that has more upside, someone like Charles Clay.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
I think there is a couple more names. One that I think you could keep your eye on. Another one that you should totally avoid. Ryan Griffin, he plays for the Texans. He's currently tight end 29. He's only owned in 1% of Yahoo leagues. We're really diving deep here. If you're in we're talking like you're like a 16-team league, he could be a decent little nugget. CJ Fedoritz, he's on IR. Ryan Griffin, he soaked up 6 targets. He scored a touchdown. It's only one game, but it's definitely something worth monitoring. Houston, they like to throw a little tight end underneath a lot. This could just be a one-game thing based on the game flow, but he could be Watson's blanket underneath. Who knows?
Yeah.
One guy to not get, and I'm sure you're going to see some jackass pursue him in your league, Mercedes Lewis. Don't do it. Don't chase the points. He had 3 touchdowns this past weekend in London, but he only had 3 touchdowns the previous 3 seasons combined. So go ahead, chase the points, but you can make fun of the person that picks him up. Yeah,
exactly. He's an idiot.
Just a few more notes. Njoku, he has 2 touchdowns through 2 weeks. That's a nice show out for the rookie tight end in Cleveland. He's currently tight end 14. Obviously, I don't think he's going to continue to do that. And Austin Seferian-Jenkins, he caught 5 passes but only for 31 yards in his season debut. I'm surprised he even got that.
Yeah.
Let's jump into some defensive streamers, and we can end this show. I think this is going to be my stream of the week. How many people realize that the Detroit Lions have the number 1 defense in fantasy football right now? Apparently not very many, because only 10% are owned in Detroit's only 10% owned in Yahoo leagues. I mean, they have like a bend but don't break type of defense that I think that they've been creating turnovers at a rate that they will not be able to sustain throughout the whole season. They have 7 interceptions so far. That puts them on pace for 37 interceptions on the season. So I don't really think that their defense is as good as what their fantasy numbers are suggesting. They do play Minnesota next week. They'll probably still have Case Keenum at quarterback. While I know he looked great last week, history has taught us that he's not a good quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions picked him off a couple times.
Yeah, that's a good pick, man. I like that. However, if I could be so bold to contradict you here, I will say I like Cincinnati's defense. They've been pretty impressive in their own right this week, and they get, like I was saying earlier with Andy Dalton, they get Cleveland. Cleveland, doesn't scare anybody. And through 3 weeks, I mean, they have 50 fantasy points through 3 weeks. So
in our league.
Yeah, in our league, yeah. So I'm just saying they're definitely an option. And I think that's a plus matchup. I'm probably going to pick them up.
Yeah, I know we brought up Cincinnati last week. We were like, yeah, you could pick these guys up. Don't necessarily start them against Green Bay, but you could pick them up and stash them away. They have good matchups week 4 and week 5. Week 4 they play Cleveland. Week 5 they play Buffalo. Well, I don't think Buffalo's going to turn the ball over a whole lot. They could hold them to low numbers in general, so that's also good as well. They have 10 sacks and 2 interceptions through 3 weeks. They are right now currently a top 10 fantasy football defense. So you can start them 2 weeks in a row and then drop them after their bye, or drop them during their bye.
Exactly.
I think one more defense that I want to bring up is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They currently have the number 2 defense in fantasy football. They're 43% owned in Yahoo leagues. I think it's a very underrated defense. Last year they were actually good, but they didn't create a lot of turnovers. This year it's been a little bit different. They have 4 interceptions. They have 4 fumble recoveries. This is in 3 games. They've been getting after the quarterback. They have 13 sacks. I know 10 of them came in week 1. But, they have a decent matchup against the Jets. I know the Jets have put up over 20 points in back-to-back weeks, but I think they'll have a little bit of trouble against Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Is there any other streaming mentions that you want to bring up, or are we pretty much all set?
No, we're good.
All right. I think, that pretty much will do it for today's show, Fifth Downers. I want to say thank you for listening. If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes. Leave us a rate and review. That would be greatly appreciated. You can also find us on Spreaker. You can find us on Stitcher. We will be doing our matchup show either Wednesday night, Thursday night, but we will be giving you the goo for our weekly matchup show. This is Johnny Slokes signing off. Have a nice night, Sit Downers.